All right, guys. Hey, Paul McLean. Welcome to the Monday Morning Wake Up Podcast. And I'm just telling you, this is going to be like a quad shot at 7 a.m. We've got just an all-star lineup of top producers. I sat back and thought, like, we have so many top producers, Family First Life. I mean, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people every month that issue paid over 20K. I thought, like, let's go to like the elite. Like, what about 100K in a month? Like, can I pick out, 4 or 5 people that have issue paid over 100,000 in a single month? And so that's what we're going to bring you today. We're going to bring you the number one, the biggest tips. And I can just tell you guys, odds are some of these guys are going to give you more than one tip. Even though I said, give me the biggest tip that you've got when it comes to in-home meeting with clients, connecting with clients, whether it's how presumptive you are, the value you build, how you close, objection, whatever that might be. Give me your biggest tip and let's dive into it. Let's unpack it. Let's go through the psychology behind it. And I'm just telling you, grab a pen and a piece of paper. This is one that you lean in and you take notes on, because we've got 4 unbelievable people that are going to hop on. The first guest we've got on is going to be Rob Richmond, and Rob Richmond's issue paid over 100,000 in a given month. In fact, last year he almost hit that $1 million in issue paid business. And everybody does a little bit different. He's got some different ways that he connects with the client and spends it. I mean, he said something like, "I sit with 4 appointments. I just book 4 appointments in a day because I got too much going on in my mind. I know I could be perfect for 4." I'm like, dude, I'm such a disaster. I booked 12 appointments in a day and triple booked because I knew I was such a disaster. If I had empty time, I would end up filling it with some disastrous stuff. And so I needed more shots. But the thing is this, we're going to go through the fundamental things, the things that were common that most of the top producers do and do well. I know for me, guys, the biggest thing that I did that I think really led me to some great success with personal production, and I use the same exact tactic with building a business, and I think I would venture to say I try to use it with being a parent, being a spouse, develop my walk with God. I mean, it's can I get around people that are at a level that I want to attain that can show me the way forward? Can my belief be built if I'm around them? If I'm around them, do I feel like I'm elevating my thought process? Do I have a different way to see things? And there's been many days I've gone out there and had 7 no sales. And other days I went out 9 no shows. And it was me getting in touch with these people, these calls, these podcasts like what you're going to listen to today, that allowed me to kind of understand and unravel the disparity that I had from the way I was doing it to how I should be doing it. Right? It gave me some context to say, okay, this is what I need to tweak and what do I need to adjust. And so, guys, I hope that brings it to this. You're served well and you get brought the same things that I've built this business from, which was leaning in and listening to those that have gone the way forward and that could show you the way forward. And so, guys, lean in and take a listen to Rob Richmond, also newly minted FFL board member at $1 million in issue paid per month as a team. So he's not just good at doing it, he's also good at training and teaching people to do it as well. So lean in and listen to Rob. All right, guys. So I got Rob on, again, 100K plus in a month producer. And so, Rob, what I want to do is kind of hear your biggest takeaway. I mean, when you sit with that many families, not just sit, when you serve that many families, 100,000 in a single month, I mean, dude, you know some things. There's some things that you built some skill sets along the way. I always say make up for work ethic with the lack of skill, which is what I lived by. But at a point in time, you've had such a high work ethic that you've derived some great skill. And then you mix that together, which by the way, you have to have good skill from a lot of experiences, a lot of failures, packaged with relentless, just tireless work ethic to get to 100K in a month. And so you can talk about what's your biggest takeaway, man. So in home, what's the biggest tip you can give us on a Monday morning, bro?
So I think the biggest thing is setting the stage for the appointment before you even get there. I'm always extremely intentional about the appointments that I'm setting, so I'm not wasting my time when I'm in the field. So what I learned the hard way through touching the stove a million times and burning myself is that setting appointments just for the sake of setting appointments is no way to live when you're in the field, because I hated getting no-showed. So what I did was I switched up my approach from quick setting to intentionally setting real appointments and getting a little bit of extra information over the phone. So when I got to the doorstep, these people were actually excited to see me, knew why I was there, and there wasn't a lot of nonsense. Transactional isn't the right word, but maybe professional or surgical would be the right way to describe my presentation. It's very short, it's to the point, and it's matter of fact. I think if you interviewed a sample of my clients, they would say that guy just got the job done and then went on to serve another family. And that's the reputation that I wanted to have in the field. I have enough friends, and I've got enough coworkers and peers. I wanted to help people protect their family and make sure that when something happened to them, there was no question that they were going to be okay. In fact, my whole goal, and this was one of the one-liners that I would say, is to show you the minimum amount of coverage to accomplish 100% of your goal, which is staying in the house without being a financial burden. So I took that approach in the houses and just hoped that they would be receptive. So like things in the house that I would do, because of the way that I set up the appointment, I'd build a little bit of rapport, 3 or 4 minutes. And then my opening line to transitioning into doing business was just, so tell me, Paul, what are you guys looking for? And then I'd be quiet and just let them tell me. And then I really don't like conflict, especially in sales. So if I just went the path of least resistance with my clients, I figured that I wouldn't have to overcome too many objections, which I am not good at overcoming objections. Rebuttaling is not my deal. I like to get enough information and get them bought in enough that I wouldn't have to do the rebuttaling at the end of the presentation.
All right. So a couple of things I want to ask you about that. So on the phone, didn't you say you would ask more questions, get more information? So when you got in, they kind of already had a better perspective of who you were. Their expectation of the process was a little bit more in line with the fact that they, this was something that, you weren't the Kirby guy. You weren't the guy that was peddling carpet. Like you were setting the stage on the phone to help you have higher success when you stepped in the door in the home. So what did that look like? A couple of things, a couple of things that you gathered on the phone that you didn't do prior that really helped you in that setup. Cause I believe that's the truth. Success is in the
setup.
But talk about that real quick. What on the phones did you start gathering?
Yeah, so I started building the rapport on the initial paragraph on the opener on mortgage leads, which is primarily what I ran. So I'd be like, hey, Paul, give me a call about the mortgage protection response card. You sent it on your loan through Chase. How you doing? Great. So again, the reason I was calling you and your wife is because this is the type of coverage where if anything happens to you, the mortgage is taken care of for your family. And that's exactly what you were looking for, right? And I'm like nodding, my body language followed like what I was saying, even on the phone, because I feel like people can feel that.
Sure.
And then, so I'm verifying the information. So I need to verify a little bit of information. I'll have you right off the phone. I have your address at 123 Success Lane in LA, in California. Perfect. The amount of the loan is for $250,000. Is that correct? Now, what I like to do is I love new home purchases. I'd say, Paul, is that a new home purchase for you or a refinance? Just play along with me a little bit here.
It was a refinance.
Oh, well, if it was a new home purchase, this is the rapport that I build. And this gets them laughing as I say, look, congratulations. Do you love it? And they'd say, yeah. And I say, feel like home yet? Are you still walking in the walls in the middle of the night? And it makes them laugh. And I have this idea in my head that if I remember the people that I spoke to, I think there's a better chance of them remembering me. I know there's a very low likelihood. If I don't even remember that person, there's no way they're going to remember me. So I made it a point to be memorable on the phone. Then I'd gather all the basic health information, heart attack, stroke, cancers last 7 years. Nope, great. What about the small stuff? Any medications you're taking preventatively for high blood pressure, cholesterol, thyroid, anxiety, depression, diabetes, any surgeries? And then I'm getting all this information, and my close on this is, so Paul, the reason I was asking you all those questions is because I'm a broker. So what that means for you and your wife is I'm going to be able to shop and customize the best plan to not only fit your situation, but most importantly, your budget. So what I do with all my clients is set up 10, 15 minutes at the most, get together with you, go over all your options, answer your questions, of course. Look, Paul, if I can show you all something you like, great. And if not, no problem. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
And then when they say fair enough, I set the appointment. And then, I get a little bit more information. Where am I going to find the address to your house, the numbers? Do I see it on the house, the mailbox, the curb? What kind of car am I going to see in the driveway? Now, perfect, Paul, I'm going to send you a text message from my cell phone number. It's going to have a picture of my business card and the date and time we're getting together. And look, I want you to know that if something pops up, look, I know that we got this time booked, but life does happen. Obviously, I don't want you to go out drinking with your friends instead of going to this appointment, but I know things do happen. And if you can't make it, reach out to me. Let me know. We'll re-coordinate our schedule for another time, and it works well in both of our schedules. So look for that text message in about 2 minutes. I send the text message, and what I found is that I got no-showed maybe 3 times the last 90 days I was in the field. And that's a pretty good ratio. And of the people that showed up and saw me, I closed about 85% of them. And it's because I set the appointments up that way. I felt like they were closed when they got the lead. They were closed when they picked up. They were closed when they told me, yeah, this is the type of coverage I'm looking for. They were closed when they set the appointment. They were closed again when they didn't reschedule. They were closed when they were there. They were closed again when they took me to the table. And then I built a little bit of rapport and asked them what they were looking for. And then they told me what they were looking for. And now it's on me just to not screw it up because it's already a done deal.
That's great, dude. Well, I got to say a couple things because that was spot on. I want to kind of unpack the psychology behind that real quick and give that to everybody listening into it. Because for one, Rob, you just seem like a human being. Like you were just a regular guy that's going there to serve them, to help them. You're busy. You're not needy. You're not desperate. You're a professional. You are matter of fact, meaning that you're you're asking a rhetorical question. Like, is this your height? This your weight? This what you're looking for? Is it fair to say you said this? I mean, everything you have, it's all set up to really kind of position them where they're in this state of mind that says, hey, this makes sense to go ahead and meet with Rob. This does make sense. Right. And I think it all goes back to your last statement when you said, I just feel like it's already done when they fill out the lead. I feel like it's already a done deal when they say yes. I feel like it's a done deal when they book an appointment. See, most people, Rob, they mess up because they don't feel like it's a done deal. They don't use these different, this evidence to support the right verdict that they should have in their mind, or the right narrative, which is they sent in a lead, which means they want to protect their family. It's a done deal. I booked the appointment, which means it's a done deal because nobody has a stranger. They use that to validate the verdict of this is a done deal, opposed to the other agent. They're still struggling with it. They're still like, well, maybe they're going to be busy. They're probably not going to be there. Or they got these other narratives of this, as if it's like, if they can get one, well, man, they got one. And that's the
when I first started my career in insurance, we went 0 for 21 my first week with my field trainer.
Wow.
And that was really eye-opening. And I wanted to quit. I'm glad I didn't, because 10 years later now we're doing $1 million a month, which is cool.
Yeah, congratulations.
But what I did, I was hoping that they were going to be there. I was like, I just hope they buy, or, that was my mindset. Instead, I switched it today. And this was not rooted in arrogance. It sounds a little arrogant when I say it out loud. It was like, they owe me their time. I spent my time, my gas money, my energy, my passion, going and meeting them for something they asked me to give them. They owe me that now. Mm-hmm. They owe me their attention, versus I hope they're there. I hope they pay attention. Maybe they'll buy. I'm like, I have myself fully convinced 2 minutes before I get to their house. I look in the mirror. I'm like, those people are dying tomorrow. They're having a heart attack tomorrow, to help create the urgency before I even get into that appointment. And now, because I've created that urgency in my mind, I owe it to them to give it 100%. And I also, with different than a lot of top producers, and this is something that might not be duplicatable, but I only set 4 appointments in a day, because I'm a basket case, and I got my own stuff I got to deal with. But I know I can be perfect 4 times for 35 or 40-minute intervals. I know that about myself. So I owe it to my clients to be perfect. When I get out of my car, when I knock on the door, it's game on, showtime. I can get back in my car and then go back to whatever I really am. But I just got to be perfect for a few hours a day. And I knew I could do that. So I put a lot of stock in it.
I asked you for 1 tip, bro, and you've given us 15. All right. So the compartmentalizing also in its own right, that's a massive tip. If more people would compartmentalize all the stuff that we got, everybody's a basket case. Everybody's got different stuff. The basket might look different, but we're still a basket case, right? And so everything that's taken place, you've got to shelf it. And for that period of time, you owe it to, what do you owe to the client? To be present for them and to care enough to be present for them. That's what you owe to them. That's it. Other than that, it's their benefit. See, if you could work from, it's for your benefit, not mine. That's what I worked from. And I care so much about the clients. I want to serve the clients. I would get my mind, just like you said, Rob, focus on the fact that they might not be home tomorrow. So I'd work from that premise. Anytime I had feedback or I was slighted to say something that might be, rooted in selfishness, like I need to make this sell, it was course corrected immediately, because I was like, what if this client, they die tomorrow? So all that made such a big difference when it came to me saying it in such a way where it was impactful, saying the right words, but the words were rooted in transformation. Like, I want to be a transformational person. I want to be meaningful, specific to that family, not transactional as in I need to get paid for my transaction I'm doing with you. That's what messes you up in this business, because it's not peddling carpet. It's dealing with people in an emotional need, an intangible product that they really just have to rest with the fact that you cared about them. And now they've got peace of mind that their family's protected. And that's a big, big deal. Last thing I'll say is this, Rob, like when you look at, the way you ask the questions on the phone and the medical stuff, see, by nature, that's a takeaway. People want what they can't have. So when you start asking those questions, they're thinking in their mind like, wow, maybe I can't get this if he asks a question that I have to say yes to. And so that helps with the setup as well. The other thing is when you say stuff like, I'll be dispatched out there and I've got a little bit of time to get this information to you. You're coming across as if it's not really, you're busy, and everybody wants to deal with somebody that's busy. They don't want to deal with somebody that's got nothing going on. So they're not like, wow, this guy really needs me. I think I actually need him. And the last thing I would always add, Rob, at the end of the appointment was, hey, listen, I look forward to meeting you and helping you. And I just think that when it helped them say, that would always lead them to say, perfect. Thank you, Paul. Every time, whenever I said, Rob, I look forward to meeting you and helping you. I'll see you tomorrow at 4. And then I pause. That me saying helping you would always incur them to say thank you. And so now they're leaving the conversation, and they know that at the end of the day that I am the one that's serving them something that they need, and it's for their benefit, not mine. And that increases the close ratio or show ratio significantly. And so last thing I'll say is this, man, because I know we're going well over the 10-minute segment, but dude, you cheated. You gave me you gave me way more than one benefit. I asked you before, I said, give me one, dude. And you went like 4 or 5 and you're messing everybody up. All right. So the other thing is the matter of fact questions that you in the in-home, when you said that you're just very much, it's set up where I'm a professional, I go through it, it's quick. Can you give any like quick examples of, maybe it sounds like you might use rhetorical questions to kind of just guide, lead, and direct them to where you want to go in an efficient manner? Can you expand on that for about 1 minute real quick?
Yeah, I never ask a question I don't know the answer to, because then that just opens you up to fall in a trap. So like, because I got a lot of information over the phone, I'm able to just regurgitate all of that when I'm filling out the client inventory, because I have most of that already filled out mentally before I go out there. So then when I'm using all of that stuff against them, and then it's very casual, man. It's like, all right, so after I do the client inventory, I'm like, so the loan amount's $250,000. That's exactly what's going to pay out. Now, this pays out 2 ways, right? There's living benefits and a death benefit, and the money doesn't go to the bank. It goes to the lending institution goes directly to the beneficiaries. And what's cool about this is that you don't have to pay off the house with this. When you're going through financial and health adversity, this is going to give you flexibility and options to do whatever the heck you need to do to get your family right at that time. And that sounds like that's what you're looking for, right? And then I just like nod my head. I'm like a bobblehead. Mm-hmm. And then just go into it.
Well, that's perfect, dude. When you say that's what it sounds like you're looking for, is that right? Guys, that's what you say anytime you want that's a transfer of thoughts and ideas where they take on your thought process as their own, and then they'll defend it and they'll walk down the path to show that they're actually moving in that direction from that thought pattern. That's how you do it. Like, does that describe you? Does that sound like something that also be important to you like it is everybody else? It's just small little subtle things that really, get their feet to move down that thought process, as far as opposed to just throwing it out there and then pausing and letting them ask another question. And that question gives them back control, and in their control, they're still working from their thought pattern. So that's such a big deal, the way you set that up and how you go through that. And guys, if you could just grab a couple of these things, I promise you it'll make a difference. Like, don't ever ask a question you don't know the answer to. The question is just used for control and to guide them, because you are the person that should be in control. Why? Because you got the insurance license. They asked for some help, and you know what products, plans, and how to package the value. You should be in control. Them in control is like going to the doctor's office and asking, hey, I can't breathe real right. And the doctor says, what do you think? What? How about you shut your mouth while you're talking to me? Did you just ask me what I thought? I'm here for a reason. That's what a lot of agents do. Like, what do you think the client's thinking? They're thinking like, dude, can you please get out fast? They want you to be in control. So Rob, thank you, dude. Phenomenal tip, man. Guys, take the 17 tips Rob gave us and put those into action. So he gave you some bonus. That was some bonus stuff right there to make it a great Monday and a better week. So thank you, Rob.
Hey, man, it was an honor to be on the call. Great seeing you.
I know that was good, but now we got another top producer coming on. We got Greg Burch, and guys, Greg Burch issue paid $189,000 in a single month. I mean, just sit on that, $189,000 in issue paid business in a month. And the great thing is, as he unpacks these numbers and stuff, like anybody can actually do that. Like he just booked, he said 7 appointments every day, 7 days a week for a month straight. He said, that's crazy. It's a crazy sprint for a short period of time. It wasn't 3 years, 36 months. It was 30 days he did it, but issued $189,000. And he's going to talk about how he was assumptive in the home and what that looked like, and give you the biggest tip he's got for you that he's found as he's gone out there and issue paid well over $100,000 in a singular month. So lean in and listen to Greg Burch as he unpacks the top tip he's got for you. All right, guys. So I got Greg Burch here, and I know I did a little intro, but I mean, God, it's almost worth 2 intros at $189,000 in issue paid business in a month. Like, Greg, do you know, like back when I started the practice company, if you did $189,000 for the year, they would have had red carpet. You would have had a banner with your picture on it, which is weird, but they would have done that for a year. And so you did $189,000 for the month. So, dude, all that means is this: you've got some value that you can give to everybody. And our goal every single Monday is to bring as much value to people so they can make it a great Monday and a better week. And so talk about the number one tip you've got for in-home with a client, you know, whether that's connect, whatever. Whatever it is for you, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to listen. I might have some things that I'll just kind of highlight the psychology behind to pull out things. So make sure everybody gets the value that you'll kind of give right now. So thank you for joining, man. Give us the biggest tip you've got.
Hey, first off, thank you for having me on this podcast. So I listened to the Monday morning wake up call back when I first came on board, back in 2018. I used to listen to this all the time. So this is pretty awesome to be on this. So my biggest tip, well, when it comes to the psychology of the sale, there's really 2 things that I did during the month. One is there's a psychology between the actual sales process versus the closing. Those are actually 2 completely separate processes that a lot of times we assume are the same process, but they're not. And so I started really focusing and learning on the closing process. And I got to a point where I was really, I didn't mind overcoming objections. And so I practiced every single objection that I could. And I had multiple different ways to overcome, the most common objections. So it wasn't just like I had 5 different ways. It was more like 20 different ways I could overcome objections. And I just assumed it within every single time that I got to the closing that it was going to happen. And when I got to that point, it made it to where it was a lot easier to overcome. So that was, I think, the first thing. So I just started studying really and reading. But the other thing is I really sped up everything. I became very, very assumptive. In order to run the amount of appointments that I ran during that time frame, I had to be very quick. So I spent usually about 5 to 7 minutes. I was in an app, and it was very assumptive. Wow. So I started every single appointment just by doing an opening. I had the same opening every time. I got rid of a lot of stuff, and I just basically got rid of excess because I looked at everything and said, to me, in my opinion, was like, a lot of this seems very salesy, like a presentation, where it shouldn't be salesy. I'm just coming over. I'm just helping you. It's that simple. Like, this is who I am. And I would just say, like, really simply and plainly, like, hey, Paul, my name's Greg. And I just introduce myself. I'm the advisor that's been assigned to you to help you out with that either mortgage protection or to find the insurance that you're requesting. My job's real simple today. I'm just gonna have a quick conversation, get to know you. I'm gonna learn about you, find out what you're looking for and what's most important to you. But most importantly, I'm gonna find out what you can be approved for, and use all those factors to come up with a couple of options. And if I find an option that makes sense for you, then awesome. I will be your advisor moving forward. We'll see if we get you approved with something today. Does that sound fair?
Yeah. Hey,
and that was my,
Greg,
go ahead.
I want to point out on that is, for one, you come across where it's just no big deal. It's for your benefit, not mine. I'm going to be very straightforward upfront with you. If we can find a plan, great, because I know it is that important to you. But if we can't, No big deal. And I think that's such a big deal right there, is how you hold yourself. Now, you did say you had all these different ways to overcome an objection. And I think that's important. I think that at night, early in the morning, you should be just studying your craft. I mean, if you want to be great, and the great thing about this business is there's no lid. So your level of greatness just means a level of profitability, level of income. It means that Greg goes from doing 100 grand where everybody was in a month like, what the heck, did he just do 100 grand? Because I used to do 60 and I thought I was something good, you know, and you do, and then all of a sudden you go from 100 and you do 189. Well, that's just increasing your skill. It's stretching and growing yourself. That's developed through like late at night, early in the morning, between appointments, any empty time, becoming obsessed about what you're doing and trying to get great. No different than like Kobe Bryant, these different athletes that they obsess about it. If that's why they're great. They can say, I don't want to obsess about it. Well, then don't. But don't issue pay 189,000 either. Like, you know, you obsessed for just 30 days and now you netted, you said what you told me before this call, 120 something thousand in net income after leads. Now you invested what, $8,000 a week in leads?
Yeah, $8,000 a week in leads, and it was, I mean, it was probably a little bit less, but it was about 40,000 for everything at the end of the month. But I also have like systems like Phone Burner and stuff like that. I paid for phone numbers. I also have Ring Central, so I just calculated everything together.
Well, I mean, but think about that. You know, somebody says, I don't know if I'd want to spend 40, but what if you were going to make 189? And you say, well, I don't know if I'm going to. It's inevitable. Like, even if your skill set was 2 years ago, Greg, like it wasn't Greg today, it was Greg 2 years ago, because you've gotten better in the home, you've gotten better, obviously. And if you're like, well, I haven't, well, then that's an issue. Are you really interrogating your weekly, you know, sales process in your phone? Are you interrogating? Are you looking at ways between what you're doing and how the people that are great at doing it, are you figuring out the deviation and making adjustments? But you're definitely better than you were 2 years ago. And so even 2 years ago, Greg, you might have netted 100, not 120, but there's no way you would have lost. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely not.
Now, what I want you to spend a little bit of time on, Greg, is you said, you know, you've got like, you know, 30, 40 different ways to overcome certain objections. I think that's very important. I think like even to think about it, you need to know what to say when they still hit you with it. You need to know what you say when you still hit you with it. And we have that on many podcasts, different trainings. But the biggest thing, I think, the glue to all that, what makes that sticky is assumptiveness, just assuming that it's going to lead to them saying yes. Your assumption, your expectation, I think, is everything. Can you talk a little bit about really how assumptive you are, even if you've got a scenario about that or your expectation? Because I think those are the two things that will really take anybody and where they're currently at today, them just going out in the field, not having to study an objection 482 times to get that next way to overcome it. If they just get their assumptiveness right and expectation right, which they can control, they can do that better today with today's appointments. That would make a difference. So can you kind of spend about 5 minutes on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think what's most important is that when you look at an objection is just identifying for what it really is. And so sometimes people will say things like, I want to think about it. And you got to identify what they're actually thinking about. Cause like I've actually had one of my closes is, Hey, thought's instantaneous. If I tell you to think of an elephant, you thought of an elephant. So there is no, like, you already know what this product is. Do you have any questions about the product? You said it fits your budget, right? Okay. So then you know, the last thing usually to think about is that, do you trust me to do business with? And then once they say, they'll always be like, no, it's all good. It's all good. Okay. Then you thought about it. Let's go ahead and see if you can get it approved, because that's the first thing we need to do. And then I just very simply just jump right into the application. So, but it's identifying what they're actually objecting to, which it's going to come out just through conversation, but also don't take it as the end of the world. It's just a complaint. Sometimes they're just like, man, it's a little bit out of budget. We're all out of budget. No one goes into any situation. If they're out of budget, that means they were out of budget before they got there. And that means that they're a buyer. So that means that they're going to buy this. So if you just take it out of this, wash it out, say, hey man, I understand, like, everyone wants to get this for free. It's not happening. You know, let's go ahead and do this anyways. It makes it a lot more, I guess, just simpler process to push through. So when it comes to the assumptiveness, like there's one close that I heard, overcome objection is just acknowledging and saying, let's do it anyways. And so you just need to maintain a non-contact. And they're like, man, it's a little bit higher than I thought. You're like, yeah, you know what? It absolutely is. I understand. let's do it anyways. And you stare, and they're just like, okay. There's this like awkwardness.
Bigger than it actually is, right? Like I think for me, Greg, in the beginning, like I would give an objection merit by spending too much time on it. And one of my best ways to overcome an objection was just not to magnify it. Because if I magnified it, it was going to be more spotlighted. It was going to be more focused on, because it's hard not to look at something that's glowing. And I was like throwing, I was making it bigger than it was. And so I think that's the first biggest saying. Like someone says, I want to think about it. Perfect. Absolutely. I understand. Now, right now we can't make a decision because we don't know what they're going to, if it'll qualify or not. But while they're making a decision and thinking about it, do you think this one would make the most sense? Well, yeah, I do think so. Okay, let's get you qualified. And logically, you sit back and say, well, what the heck just happened? You know what I mean? Like you said you wanted to think about it, and then you came back and said, well, listen, right now we really can't think about it because we don't know if it'll qualify. We still have to get an answer from them. But do you think this would make the most sense if it were to qualify while they're thinking about it? Well, I think so. Okay, great. Grab your driver's license. And I realized that, man, that overcame, like, it wasn't really an objection I was getting. It was more of a complaint, and it was just simple to move forward. And I think that, Greg, for a lot of what I'm hearing from you is everything's rooted in the fact that you know that they need the protection. You're the professional. You're in control. And this is the same thing that I got, when Rob was, doing his segment. It was the same kind of concept, which is, it's just how you see stuff. Like I remember Rob struggling with clients that were seniors for mortgage protection or even final expense because they'd hit me with like, well, Paul, we just don't know our budget. And in my mind, because they said that, and my mind was going to try to find ways to make that true at first when I was getting going. And so I would be like, okay, that's true. My grandma used to always say that her budget was tight and she didn't know her budget and this and that. So I kind of find that stuff and I would make that true. Well, that being true doesn't lead me to helping the client. It leads me to a no-sell. And so I sat back, and when everything changed wasn't when I had the best objection handling. I sat back and literally thought like, well, hell, that doesn't make any sense, dude. They get a fixed Social Security check. They know exactly what their bills are every month, more than me or more than even you. They know their budget. I don't even know if I got a budget. It just comes in and goes out. Like whatever. I don't got a budget. I don't think about it. You think about a budget? No,
I don't.
You don't know budget. But they got a budget. They got a friggin' penciled out, dude. They know like expense. They got a reconciler. They got a budget. They have the budget.
Down to the penny.
Yeah.
Down to the penny.
So I started thinking like, well, heck, why am I? So that doesn't make sense. And I thought, well, the easiest way is to say, hey, Greg, listen, my job is to make sure that it's a good fit, that it's sustainable and affordable. Because at the end of the day, more than anybody else, you know exactly what your budget is, because it's the same every month, so you guys know what that is, which is a blessing, because some don't, but you're on a fixed income. So you absolutely do know what's affordable. And all these state regulated plans, they're set in place where 9 out of 10 times we can find a plan that's going to fit the budget for you, and you can have that peace of mind you want. Now, before we get into that, let me just ask you some qualifying questions. But all of a sudden, everything changed. It was just because I stopped getting sold by the client. I was sold going into it on my new perspective, which is like, what? They know their budget, So the big tip, Greg, is assumptiveness. You got anything else you want to add to that and wrapping up? Because we wanted a one single tip. We didn't want to have, you already gave some bonus ones too. Like we've gotten already. I said one tip and everybody's throwing bonuses out. So you guys are welcome on this Monday morning. You got some bonus extra tips from these 100K a month producers. But anything else to add to that, bro?
So part of me, like when I'm trying to be assumptive, is that I just kind of lead the client. So like, and by that, I mean, if they're like, hey, I really want to think about it, then, say, hey, perfect. I recommend you think about it. So the process is that we're going to see if we can even get you approved, but in that time frame, you're going to be thinking about it. If you are approved, you'll have 30 days to actually review it and think about it. So what we're going to do is just do a really quick application, and I jump into it. I don't ask them if that's what fits. I just jump into it and say, let's do this. Let's go ahead and put you at the lower option, because if you're approved, you can flex either way. You can go up or you can go down. So let's see if we'll get you approved. So, hey, I have your middle initials. What? And I just jump in. Being that assumptive just puts them at ease, but it takes so much control.
Greg, why do you think you could be so assumptive? Like, why do you think you could be so?
I just believe. I know they need it. I've seen too many times people not getting it. I believe in the product. I believe in the company. I believe myself. I tell myself I do affirmations every day, and I'm like, hey, I'm the best advisor that's going to help these people. I'm really going to find the best product for them. And having, you're basically, I'm selling myself on my ability, the company's ability, the America, or, whatever I'm using. And that belief is stronger than them selling me that they don't need it, which I know they need it.
That's good.
So.
That's another bonus tip. Conviction. You get your conviction up this Monday morning when it comes to selling and hiring and building your business, because that's where it all starts, man. That personal conviction. If my conviction's so high, then I can hear you and I can relate to you, but I'm not going to be tempted to be sold by your radical thought process that leads you to not making the right choice, which is protecting your family. The choice that your intention has already showed that you want to make by sitting in the lead. So conviction by its nature is the most important thing you could have to be effective in. You say, well, I want to be assumptive. How to learn more assumptiveness? I want to be better at connecting with the client. How do I do that? I want to be able to better at overcoming objections. How to be more convicted. If you're more convicted, that's the roof, that's a floor. What you build from there is going to be all the things that you want to make it a successful in-home presentation. So Greg, thank you, dude. Phenomenal tips. I appreciate you, brother. And thank you for setting the standard. Absolutely. and setting a new standard. I think that for me, Greg, that's something that I've never lost respect for, is that, my belief level will eventually just settle in, because what I see, settle in from my personal experience, settle in from what I see others doing. And then once it's settled in, it's sometimes it's difficult to raise that up. And only when it's raised up can I go out there and typically put in the behavior that's going to lead to a better, more fruitful financial career. And what you did going out and issue paying $189,000 on your own pen, dude, that definitely gave me a completely different belief. And what that means for me and everybody I work with in the whole West Coast hierarchy is that I'm able to give more belief and show more belief because of what you gave me and what you did. And so I know it was great for you and your financial situation that month, but it also made a big, big impact on everybody else that comes on board from here on out with Family First Life. So thank you for doing that, bro.
I thank you for the kind words, and thank you for having me on the podcast. This has been awesome.
All right, guys, how good was that? Now we've got Zach Twardowski, who's issue paid over $100,000 on his own pen. He's got a business that's just exploding every month. It's hitting new higher records. It's just blowing up. So he's, again, somebody that knows exactly how to go out there and do it, because he's doing it, but he's also showing a lot of people how to go out there and do the exact same thing. So lean in, and I promise you this tip that Zach's got for you will make a difference in your business, will make a difference in your personal production, and allow you to have a more profitable this week than you did last week. So lean in and listen to Zach Twardowski. All right, guys. Well, we got Zach Twardowski on, and Zach's been just a forerunner since the beginning, dude. Like, you went out there and issue paid well over $100,000 many months, and now your business, Zach, what's your business doing a month right now?
We did 1.75 last month.
You think about that, 1.75, bro. Like, I think it was it seemed like months ago, you're like, dude, I just hit board member. And now you're like about to double that, bro. Like,
it was January is when we hit board member.
That's crazy, dude. So almost doubling in really just, I guess, 6-month period of time. And so for one, congratulations. And this podcast, we're really just getting into the mind of producers that issue paid over 100,000. I mean, last month we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people do over 20. I thought, like, man, what if we get some like 100K producers in a month on here to give their biggest tip? And so, dude, I'm going to pass it to you. I want to maybe I'll unpack some of the stuff you say and highlight it so everybody can get all the value that'll be really just jam-packed in your biggest tip. But talk about your biggest tip you've got as a producer.
Yeah. And I appreciate it, Paul. I appreciate, the kind words and everything. And when I started, before I jump in, when I started here watching this podcast, I was very negative when I started. So this helped me tremendously. And it's an honor to be able to get on and help you out with it. And I'm glad you brought it back and are still doing it. So there's 2 tips I want to give. The first thing is I had to run 30 real appointments a week. And I think if you're going to do 100,000, no matter your skill set, you're probably gonna have to run 30 appointments a week. And real appointments, Paul, meaning ones where you book them and you go, okay, so you're going to be home at this time. Can you shoot your wife a text and let her know that I'm coming over at that time as well? Any reason you guys aren't going to be home at 7? Okay, can you write down my name? Here's my contact information. Again, no reason you're not going to be home at 7 tomorrow, right, Paul? Like, that's a legit appointment. What some people count as a legit appointments is, oh, okay, well, I'll swing out there tomorrow. You may or may not be home. Well, anyways, I'll come by. Well, they're like, drop it in the mailbox. You're like, okay, I'll come by tomorrow. Like for everyone watching, that's not an appointment. If you're counting it, that does not count towards your 30. You might as well write that in as a door knock or something if you insist on writing in your calendar, which really you shouldn't. So the first thing is running 30 real appointments every single week, right? Legit appointments, however many leads you need to get there. That's step one. And then step two for me was because I knew I had enough appointments, I had really good structure in my appointments, right, Paul? So, and I was really disorganized early on and I couldn't figure out why I had no control. And I thought it was because I was young and a little bit immature and didn't have the sales experience. But what I came to understand and realize was that it was because of my lack of structure and professionalism in the home, right? Like this is because I come from a background of family of doctors and stuff like this. This is the example I like to use. Like if you walked in the doctor's office and he came up behind you and just jabbed a big needle into your butt cheek, you'd be like, what the heck's going on, right? But if he came in and was like, Paul, you have this really serious cancer. You're probably going to die within like 10 days, but I have this shot and all I got to do is poke this needle in your butt and you're going to be cured. You'd go, yeah, let's do it, right? So if you come into the house and you go through everything and you get to the end and you go, okay, grab me your checkbook. They're like, what the heck? You didn't prepare me for that. I didn't know that was coming. And they feel like you're trying to scam them or pull one over on them, right? So same thing here. You have to set proper expectations in the beginning. So for example, what I would always do is, doesn't matter what type of lead, this open works for every lead, right? Say it's an internet lead, Paul. We sit down, I go, hey, Paul, I assume you filled this out because you want to make sure you're not going to leave a burden on someone. Is that correct? He'll go, yeah. I go, okay, cool. So who is that person? And maybe he tells me it's his daughter. Got it. So it's your daughter. How old is she? Where does she live? Does she have grandkids? Is she married? And then that's where we build rapport, right, Paul? That's where I always build rapport is I'm talking about their beneficiary because I know that that's more important to them. Like if you go, hey, nice drapes, that's not really important to them. But if you start talking to them about the person they love the most and they care the most in the world about, that's how you build real rapport with someone. And while you're building rapport, you're finding out all the ammo you need for the appointment. So I spend 5 to 10 minutes there talking with them about who the beneficiary would be, asking them questions about them. Oh, your daughter, she's married. Do you like her husband? Yeah. What about the grandkids? What sports do they play? And I spend 5, 10 minutes digging in and understanding the dynamic there, right? And I go, okay, that makes sense, man. Well, it seems like you really love your daughter, Paul. So what we're going to do today is pretty simple. I have this client worksheet, and what it's going to allow me to do is insurance is all state regulated, meaning that the price is going to be determined based on your age and health. And we work with all the companies, all the best companies. So we're going to be able to figure out the best situation for you and your family. So I'm going to ask you a couple minutes of financial questions about any debt you may or may not have, questions about your health, and then any insurance you may or may not have. And then what we'll do is put together some numbers, figure out what makes sense. And then I'm not the one that actually gets to make the final call on the underwriting. So what we have to do is submit that over to the insurance carrier, whichever one we go with, doesn't really matter to me, whatever one's best for you guys. We'll submit it to them, and then they'll either let us know today or within about a week to 2 weeks if you're approved or not for this coverage. Does that all sound fair? And then Paul will go, yeah, that sounds fair. Like 9 times out of 10, if you build a little bit of rapport with them, then build really good structure, then they go, okay, that makes sense, right? But if you don't do that, then you get to the end again, and it's a mess where they go, oh, I thought you were just giving me, because on the phone, what do we say, Paul? Hey, I got to get the information over to you and see what you're eligible for, right?
Right.
So if you go in, that's the last expectation you set for them. If you go into the home then and go, all right, go through the inventory, don't explain anything, right? And figure out all the stuff you need to know about them to figure out what coverage you can get for them. Then by the time you go to quote them and then they'd say, okay, that's great. We appreciate, did you ever get that? We appreciate the information because that's what you told them you were coming for.
Right.
So if you don't reestablish the proper structure at the beginning, they still think that's why you're there is only to give them information. They may want to buy and not even think that they can buy because you just told them they're going to give them information. So if you set really good structure, and then while you're going through this appointment, do a good job of digging in and figuring out what their why and what the situation looks like, then you can build a lot of value for that client. And I know you probably have a follow-up question, but one other thing I wanted to add on, what helped me visualize, because people ask a lot of times, Paul, or tell agents a lot of times, you just need to be better at asking questions, right? And that really frustrated me when I was new, because I'm like, dude, what questions do I ask? Like, I don't know what questions to ask. Tell me some questions, right? And the way I started thinking of it was, like it's a movie, right? So say me and my wife, Deborah, are watching a movie. I fall asleep and the plot is that there's a couple in the movie, the husband dies, and the rest of the movie is what the wife's life looks like moving forward. The amount of questions you should ask are all the details you'd want to know about that movie. If I woke up and was like, hey, babe, what happened in this movie? What did it look like? Where did she move? What happened to the kids? Did they grow up? Were they able to go to college? Like all those questions that I would have about what that family's future looked like are as in detailed as you should be with the questions you're asking throughout the inventory sheet. And then what's nice about that is when you get that crystal clear of a picture of what would happen without insurance, it's very simple to then go, okay, Paul, so, this is what would happen if you don't have any insurance. Or we could do this thing over here where you pay $200 a month and that solves all these problems. And now there's a totally alternate ending of the movie. that make sense?
That's the best I've ever heard it, man. As far as bringing clarity to like the questions you should ask and then the value. It's kind of like I love the analogy also, like, doctor come in and just throws a needle in your butt. The doctor knows that you need the needle in your butt because he just got done looking at the CAT scans or whatever. He knows that. And so I think a lot of times what I would mess up is when the picture was so clear to me, like, oh, this is a no-brainer. You definitely need it. I'd go in and I would treat them in such a way where they didn't get it, even though they know they needed it, because of the way I was posturing and packaging it, because I was just like, oh yeah, no. And I would skip over the rapport. I'd skip over the process. I'd skip over the structure. And then that'd be my most frustrating no sell, because I'd leave and be like, what the heck? Or it'd be the one where like they're paying $100 a month and you can get them twice the amount of coverage, the same exact plan for $100 a month. And they say, no, you're like, how the heck did I mess it up? Well, you messed it up because you walked in and you threw a freaking needle in their butt cheek because you thought like, that's a no brainer. They already get cat. Of course they need this. So I love the way you kind of package that too. And see the questions is the value. That's where the value is articulated, is where they get to see. I think every question you ask, Zach, when you pause, the space, the time that elapses between the question you ask and their answer that's provided, dude, they're really starting to take a look at their situation. They're taking a look at the CAT scan. They're starting to say, like, wow, I didn't know it looked like this. Wow. How does this feel? This feels kind of unsettling. Man, I didn't know it would feel like this. They're starting to imagine a future and that hasn't happened yet, but will and can happen. And then you introduced the alternate. I love that, man. Now it's like, well, let me just show you something. We've got the needle. We've got the shot that's going to fix you. And I think you put that together. It's an absolute home run. That's one of the best tips I've heard, man. And so for anybody on here, I think that, Zach, I've come to the realization that if anybody wants to have an increased close ratio, I think it rests upon two things. And I think for everybody that's watched, listen to everybody's tips from these 100K producers like you, Zach, the two things that are common is assumptiveness and value. If you can get your assumptiveness right, which is all the way you hold yourself, knowing that it's really already a done deal, knowing that, of course, you're going to say yes to the shot once you understand what it's for, and you understand that it's structured, you understand that I care about you, you understand that I'm a human being that's here for you. I'm not a pushy salesperson. It's not about me. It's about you. When you do that, the assumptiveness will take your close ratio higher, and then more value. More value, more why. And when you do that, you're going to not have the pushback, the objections, anything like that. That almost fixes about everything. And the last thing.
Yeah, Paul, can I add one thing real quick? So what you said on the assumptiveness part, that's why I start off my in-home that way. I go, okay, so obviously you need some insurance. You don't want to be a burden today. So who's the beneficiary of this policy going to be? Like, one of the first I say to them is assuming they're buying something, and I want to know the beneficiary already. I think it's a strong way to open, because you're right off the bat, you're assuming and you're setting the right posture that you're getting something. I already want to know the beneficiary. And that's a really great way to start, because then it just puts them in the mindset they're getting something from the rip. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to add that in there.
Hey, great tip, dude. Like everybody else, you gave multiple bonus tips outside of the one tip. And that's great. Build authentic rapport. There's nothing like unauthentic, fabricated, just like, oh, it's terrible. I remember going to buying a couch one time. I walked through and the lady's like, how about them 49ers? I'm like, do you think I like the 49ers? like I was like, how fast can she get away from me as quickly as possible? You know what I mean? Like, I went into a full on sprint. Like when I raced Bobby Burch, I was like, I'm out of here. Like I was like, this is just unattractive. But the person, it's hard not to be authentic when you're talking about people and their family and what's going to happen. And also that keeps you in the right state of mind and helps really kind of throw fertilization and water and nutrients on the seed of the conviction you need to have to be effective in the home. Because as you're asking those questions, it's putting you in this frame of mind that, like, this is important. And you start to get tied into it as well, where you start to feel the emotion of how much they need it and how this is everything. And then when they give you an objection, you're less likely to fall to down to the objection or fall to the level of their thought process. You're more likely to articulate and move from, no, this is that important, and respond correctly. And so, man, there's so many good things through all that, Zach. I appreciate you doing this, man. I know that we've got you on a Monday morning wake up podcast where we got a full 45 minutes that's going to be coming out pretty soon. We're going to schedule that calendar and knock that out, man. Cause I got A lot of stuff I want to continue to ask you, and in your pursuit, not just as a producer, man, but how many people you've helped as you've gotten close to this 2 million mark. And if you're watching this podcast in any other month outside of the month of May, we're rest assured Zach's already at 2 million plus. So thank you, bro. Appreciate you, man. Phenomenal tip, guys. Go put that into action. Don't just hear it. Oh, it sounds good. No, hearers are one thing, doers are another thing. Give me a doer, man. Even if you halfway heard it, you'll get something better from us. So thank you, Zach. All right, guys. Hey, thank you, Zach. How good was that? I know your page full of notes is piling up, right? You might have had to go get a notepad like I did while I was listening to this. So next up, we've got Steve Giordano. Guys, Steve is a guy, he was #1 producer in Family First Life. Now, when you say that, see, this is the thing. You say #1 with some companies I figured out, I got to ask them, okay, well, what does that mean? What did you write? Like, you go with #1, it sounds good. But it's like, if I'm #1 football star at my college and I go to VVC, it ain't that impressive, dude. Why? Because there's like 1,000 people that go there, and the school doesn't have a good football team, and they're like, I don't know, D19. I mean, like, it's not even relevant. But if I say I'm the top dog at Alabama, that's different. You're like, okay, this dude's going to the NFL. He's going to lead his family to financial wealth. He's going to change his trajectory of his family because he knows how to play ball. Steve Giordano is #1 with the biggest IMO in the insurance industry, with an IMO FFL that's got bigger, more top producers than any company out there. I mean, heck, to make it in the top 100, you probably got to issue pay over 400,000 now, is what this year is starting to unmask and reveal. So he was the #1 producer with Family First Life. He did over 1.3 million in issue paid business in a given year. He had many months, if not every month for the year, where he issue paid over $100,000. So if you don't think he's got some tips, let me just tell you, buckle up. Lean in, take some notes. Steve Giordano's got some great stuff to give you, some things that he learned throughout the year where he was issue paying $100,000 month after month after month. And so thank you, Steve. And guys, lean in. You're going to want to listen to this. All right, Steven Giordano, man, good to have you with us, bro. And man, dude, like, you take a look at last year. What was your end of year numbers in personal production?
1.3 million.
God, 1.3 million. Let me just clarify, because there might be somebody that just clicked this and they're starting to watch and they're like, 1.3 million as an organization. No, but hey, by the way, that beats 90% of IMOs. I read somewhere like the average IMO does 80,000 a month. Dude, you did more than 80,000 a month on your own pen, dude. So like, I don't know how it feels walking around knowing that you're your own independent marketing organization, bro, but phenomenal job. You've made an impact on many different people throughout the organization as far as belief. I didn't believe that was done. And now that I know it's done, I believe it can be done. And the crazy thing is people also believe it, because in 2021, think about how many people, Stephen, that are on pace to do $1 million in issue paid business. A lot, dude. Where last year you were the one really that was getting after it. And so pretty cool to see, dude. It's definitely made a big difference. And that being said, to do over 1.3 million on your own pen, you've seen a lot of clients. I mean, last year, how many clients do you think you saw last year?
Yeah, I think I averaged 30 appointments a week, and I probably sit with like 18. So let's do the math on 18 times 52.
That's a lot. Let's just not do it. So we both seem like we're smarter than we actually are and not have a big mistake. So that's a lot of family. So obviously with that many, experiences, that many scenarios, that many situations, when you sit with clients, you learn, you learn some things. You learn what to do. You learn what not to do. You learn what works really well. You learn what doesn't work at all. And so I'm excited to hear your #1 tip, man. So if we can get in that, what's your biggest tip in the home that you can give us on a Monday morning, bro?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. And I'll just say a quick story. When I first started, I used to listen to the Monday morning wake up call as I was getting in the business, walking my dog, and hearing all these numbers. And now what it's exploded to is just amazing. So I'm honored to be on here with you, first of all. So for the in-home, for me, I like the word simple. I like to keep things really, really simple with clients. And the reason is because I don't want to lose people. I want to make sure that when I'm sitting with them, they understand that this is not a cumbersome process. This is a process that we're going to go through together, where we're going to find the best option for you and your family, but we're going to do it in a simple way. So I honestly feel like I say that word a lot in the in-home. The other piece that goes hand in hand with that is getting people what they qualify for. And I know it's such a simple thing that we hear in the scripts and everything, but the worst thing is trying to sell someone on something they can't get. And that's something that I've really, really worked on. And that's why I think I'm able to issue pay a lot, because I'm actually issuing policies and I'm not submitting people for things that they can't get. So when it comes to the in-home, there's a way you have to be able to communicate that. You have to take control in the house. And once you've assessed a client's health, being able to then tell them, like, if they've had, a heart issue and they want a term on a mortgage protection. And I had this last night, actually, being able to tell the client, hey, this is what makes sense for you and your situation. And then being able to, we'll say, quote unquote, sell them on that, as opposed to trying to sell them on what they want. And that can be a hard thing for new agents. And I think when you can get yourself up, ramp yourself up to 100 appointments, and you've sat with a lot of people, it becomes that much easier, because you're not intimidated by the fact of telling them something that they might not be able to get. That would be, a couple of quick things on the in-home. On the simplicity side, going back to that, I would say, if you communicate that process is going to be really, really simple, they're going to feel at ease, because they're going to feel like you're not selling them. They're going to feel like this is a very, cut and dry type of a thing, and it's not cumbersome. And also letting them know that kind of you're their friend. I say things like, you don't need to have the most expensive insurance in the world. You just need to have some. We're trying to cover loss, as opposed to, trying to give them a huge death benefit, let's say, but we're trying to cover the loss that you're going to have, whether it be for a spouse or for a child. So I think all of those things, they kind of take themselves to where the client feels at ease. And really, that's what, in my opinion, what you're looking for. You don't want them to feel overwhelmed. You want them to feel at ease, that you're kind of on the same team. That all kind of makes sense.
It makes great sense, dude. And I think that that's important, man. Finding out, a couple different words that the client wants to hear that are taken well, and then using those. Like when you say simple, it does make him feel at ease, because the one thing that could hold them back from leaning in and hearing all the things they need to hear from you is they believe it's complex. They think there's a lot to it. And so in their mind, they're searching for the complexity in it, and they're not hearing the heart behind the importance and the value of the protection. So I think that, Stephen, for one, this is really good. This is a massive tip, like understanding what could be holding people back, the agent back, and also the client back. I mean, that's what you're talking about here. You're talking about for the client, like, when you say simple, how that puts them at ease. Well, it's because what could rattle them or keep them out of sorts or keep them from hearing is complexity, right? Another thing that can keep them from hearing is them thinking that it's not affordable, or thinking that they might not be able to afford it. That could keep them also from hearing. Another thing that can keep them from hearing you is thinking that you're a salesperson. Like, they're comparing you to the guy that walked in a week ago trying to sell them, I don't know, water softener or something like that. And so these are all the things that can keep the client from hearing you. Now, if they can't hear you, they can't see the value, because your words are painting a picture, and the picture is showing the value, and the value is where that leads them to buying. And so that's what we're talking about. This is good. This is really good. So what words are you saying that help bring down that wall that's keeping them from moving forward and actually listening to you? That's a big deal. And so I love that, man. I think that's a home run. And I wonder, in fact, Stephen, if we can camp here, what are some other like words that you believe, or phrases like, this is what all my clients do, or we're not sure if we get you qualified? Is there any of the words or phrases that you just believe kind of help, put the client in a position where it's almost like fertile ground, where you're able to throw seeds and they're able to grow, not this hardness where they're kind of like building up these walls, where when you're trying to throw a value seed, it doesn't land well because they've got these things holding them back? Any other phrases or words that you think are important?
Yeah, I think framework of saying, hey, we want to find something that's going to make sense, that's going to cover you on loss, like, so for instance, on like mortgage protection, if you go into a mortgage protection and you're trying to cover a whole loan, and I could probably count on one hand how many times I do that. I'll say little things like, hey, we just need to cover the loss of X. We need to cover and protect the equity. I will say things like, you've done a great job of creating a lot of equity in your home. We're going to do a great job of protecting it for you. We want to make sure that you're in the best position possible. It's just little things and subtleties that throughout an in-home, when people say like, how do you close? How do you take them to the close? My whole thing is you're taking them to the close the whole time. From the minute I sat down, these little nuanced things that you're saying are taking them where you want them to go, with the affordability and all that good stuff. That's where you want them, because they completely take their guard down. Now they trust you, and you're kind of like their friend on the inside. I'll talk people down off of high premiums. I'll tell them, hey, like, I would go with the low one, because based on your budget and based on what you're going to lose, that's a good starting place. I'll tell them, we do reviews every year. So I'll get with you in a year, and maybe your insurance needs will change and your budget will be a little better and we can increase it. We have to get you in something today to prevent loss. Certain things like that.
That's good, dude. It's almost like I found out that if my mind is set on the fact that everybody needs life insurance, desperately needs it. Everybody, either if they have it, we can probably get them a better plan because of the options we have. Or if they don't have it, we can get them a plan. They desperately need it. So we're going to get them a plan that they can fit. Then every situation I have, I always found solutions to it. You know what I mean? It was even like, I remember when another FFL agent would sit with the client, I'd go in behind them. I remember thinking like, oh shoot, I'm not going to be able to help this client. And I thought like, that doesn't make any sense, because most people are inadequately insured. So they probably need more life insurance. And then I would take that and spin it, and I would use it to help sell them on the fact that I'm the person they could trust. I'm a field underwriter. I'm not a sales rep. And I'd use that to tee me up and get them to see me more as I saw myself, that's the first key, which is I'm not a sales rep. I don't need to sell. I'm a professional. There's nobody better that could be selling with that client than myself. And I'm going to go out there and figure out a way to serve this client because it's for their benefit, not for my benefit. And I'd go in, and when I saw the other policy, I'd say, Steve, listen, man, let me just tell you something. I've done this for quite a while. And I've had horror stories where I sit with the client and they pull out a policy they used to have, and then they pull out the policy that they now have. And I say, why did you cancel this other policy? They said, well, somebody came in and said, the price would be better. And I said, well, the price is better, but you do know this plan ends 10 years sooner. And so the price through this company is actually the highest price out there. It just seems lower because your term ends so soon. Do you still need life insurance? Oh yeah, I still need life insurance. And so Steve, let me just tell you this, Stephen, like no matter who comes in after me, if they tell you to get rid of this policy, don't listen to them. They're a captive salesperson and they're just trying to make a sale, make a commission. I'm a field underwriter, so I can be very candid. I'm not swayed like that. This plan is really good. And then once I did that, dude, they were like willing to listen to anything I had to say, because they're like, who the heck comes in? And by the way, they're wondering from the last moment that person left the house, maybe it was Andrew, which is who I'd always run into. It'd be Andrew out here. And for another one, Andrew Taylor. So, I would, they were wondering, can I trust Andrew? Did I make a good decision? Everybody's always thinking, did I make a good decision or did I get taken? There's always a little bit of that. As you get better, that's smaller for the client as far as that residue that's left of that, but that's always there. But when I come in and I make them feel good and I put them at ease about that, and then I use that and I package it in such a way where I'm talking about, I'm not a captive sales reps. This is what they do. And I tell a story. And I say, listen, don't ever get rid of this. Now, then I can come back and say, let me ask you this, Stephen. I know this is intended for your mortgage. Do you guys have anything to help replace the income? So, Bob, when you pass away, that $6,000 is gone every month. Do you have any kind of time period where that income is replaced? And would that be important to you like it is about everybody else I've sat with? Well, yeah, it is important because people look at life insurance in blocks: mortgage protection, life insurance, final expense. income replacement. And so now you can go in and show value in their box, and they're going to move to getting it because they trust you. And so, dude, this is, I mean, we could spend an hour and a half, and maybe we should, Stephen, and maybe we should get you back on and do one where we just go through some of these phrases, these setups, how to really, I think what's really important is how do you, throughout the process, how the setup, have the client believing that, man, this person really has my best interest in mind. They're a filled underwriter. They're not a captive salesperson just trying to sell me something. They care. They're competent. And how do you get them to take away all the things that can be held on to that would keep them from moving forward to get a policy? Because every client is pretty much, there's very much similarities. There's not a million different things. There's only so many things that keeps a client from moving forward. And so, dude, phenomenal tip. Thank you for sharing, dude. We're definitely going to get you back on in the near future to do a full podcast with you guys. I hope this served you well. Stephen, thank you for joining, man. And thank you for what you've done, dude. Thank you for going out there and setting a new standard that's allowed FFL and everybody that joins FFL today and tomorrow and the day following to elevate their game because of the example that you set. So I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, guys, how great was that? All right. And let me just remind you that comment below. In fact, let's do this because I think everybody has a different way. You know, everybody's hearing the same thing, but everybody hears it a little bit different. And I know that I love sometimes getting in a meeting where we've got some just great minds, so people that have seen success, and then they're speaking, and I got other people in the room that have seen great success too, listening in and learning. And we go through the room and say, hey, what was the one thing you got? And then they say, I'm like, man, that was good. I kind of got that, but I didn't get it like that. Now that I got it like that, it's even better. So why don't you put in the comments below, what's your biggest takeaway? What did you grab, you know, where you're like, man, I could put some handles on this. I can take this, put it in action, and see some true benefit in my business this week. Can you put a comment in below? Also, we're going to be doing the drawing, right? So we're going to have the number, you know, the comments put in there. We've been doing it each week. And hey, by the way, there's no like me picking and choosing. Like Casey hits spin and that thing just whatever it throws out, it throws out. And so you'll be in the drawing to win $250 in lead credit, which will definitely help make this week better than last week, which is our goal every single week as we hop on and bring this content and training to you guys. So make sure to like, to subscribe, to share it. By the way, comment on YouTube. That's how we pull it from. We only have it one platform that we can utilize that from. And so YouTube comments, because I know a lot of you guys might be seeing this on Facebook or Instagram and different platforms. It could be, you might be watching it on, you know, iTunes or podcasts or Spotify. It's on all the different platforms, but make sure to go on YouTube to put that comment in so we can go ahead and do the drawing as well and have you a part of that. And so, guys, pleasure to have you on today. I hope this served you. I know it served me well. I'm like, give me some leads. Get me out there. Give me the phone. I want to go out and see some clients, which is always a great feeling if that's what you're doing. You got to love what you do, that love of labor. And if that podcast didn't make you just more passionate about what you do, more excited to get on the phones, have the right perspective of who you are and who the client is as you're booking appointments and seeing clients this week, I don't know what could, guys. And so let's make it a massive week. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you guys leaning in and listening every single week. And my desire, like I said, is to serve you and serve you the best I can. And I hope it's doing that. And so make it a massive week. Stay strong, be steadfast, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Well, you know what time it is. It is time to give away $250 in lead credit. All you got to do to be entered in this drawing is just comment on this video and you're entered into next week's drawing as well. So that's all you got to do. Just leave a comment down below. It's that simple. You could win $250 that you wouldn't otherwise spend on leads. Or you might spend $250 more on leads and you just have double the leads. No matter what it is, you get more leads, you make more money. It's a win-win for everybody. All you gotta do is leave a comment. And this is for last week's video on generosity, the 7 points of generosity. I'm gonna click the start button and then whoever wins is gonna pop up right behind me. And let's get to it. Teresa Fuller. Congratulations, Teresa. You just won yourself $250 in lead credit. Go ahead and get in contact with Victoria and secure that credit. Write some business. Continue to make it a big month. We love you guys. Take care. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.